for generating electricity for a large area or large number of consumers. So we have got one successful combined cycle power plant, that is your combination of Brayton cycle and Rankine cycle gas turbine steam turbine power plant. So here we start, and then we have shown the common features of air standard Brayton cycle. Then this is the combination. So I mean, two very simple cycles have been shown and joined together with the help of a heat exchanger, which has got a special name, as I have told. This is heat recovery steam generator, or HRSG. Very commonly it is known as HRSG. And we will spend some time on HRSG, not in this. I will send you a deck of slides, particularly on HRSG. Now, two basic cycles, your Brayton cycle and Rankine cycle have been combined. And when we go for combined cycle power plant, generally we do not do much modification in the cycle, but sometimes some modifications are done. That means in the gas turbine side, we can have intercooling, we can have reheating, and in the steam turbine side, we can have regenerative feed heating. So these type of modifications can be there. So what are the advantages? The thermal efficiency will be greater than either cycle would have individually. So that is one of the advantage, that it will have high cycle efficiency. If it is high cycle efficiency, then cost of power will be less amount of fossil fuel will be burned, less amount of environmental pollution will be generated, etc. I will come to this afterwards. Let me tell you some other advantages of these two cycles. Now, the gas turbine cycle and the steam turbine cycle has got some sort of complementary features. Like there is something called how we select a particular power plant. Certain features, let me tell you. Obviously, efficiency is one factor. Obviously, cost of power, that is another factor. That means what kind of fuel you are using. Whether you are using a cheaply available fuel or you are using a costly available fuel, but which is costly. So power, cost of unit power, that is important. Then the other important things are power to volume ratio. That means for making certain megawatt, what is the volume of your power plant? So power to volume ratio, that is one thing. Another thing is that how well is your power plant geared up to take care of the changing load. See, whenever we are considering some sort of a very diverse kind of a consumer and different kind of load, so there could be load fluctuation. So how well your power plant is capable of taking care of this load. So this is also another point, and then environmental pollution is another point. So if you keep all these things together, then we can find that steam turbine power plant and gas turbine power plant are complementary. Like the initial cost of steam turbine power plant is high initial cost is low, but the initial cost, I am extremely sorry, the initial cost of the gas turbine power plant is low compared to the steam turbine power plant, because steam turbine power plants are very large. You have to have large amount of area, etc. And then very large number of equipments are there. One complication comes because that you have to use water. If you have to use water, then that water you have to make it suitable for the power plant. So water treatment plant should be there, water handling plant should be, cooling water system should be there. So all these things are there. So that's why this is costly. Initially, this is costly. But coal is relatively cheaper compared to the fuel which we use in a gas turbine power plant. Generally, coal is cheaper and low-grade coal also can be used, but low-grade coal, from low-grade coal, you cannot have energy, sufficient energy for a gas turbine. So, what we can see that initial cost of the steam turbine power plant is high, whereas running cost is low. So this is complementary. Then, if we have to have a steam turbine power plant, its installation takes large amount of time, as the power plant is very big. Whereas a gas turbine power plant is small and very quickly you can install it. Okay, and then same thing is that regarding this fluctuation, load fluctuation, gas turbine power plant can cope up very well. Whereas steam turbine power plant is sluggish and it takes time. So all these things are complementary to each other. So when we have when we have combined both the power plant, we have got good points from both the sides. So that is one advantage. And when you have got a combined power plant, part load capacity of that power plant is much better. Part load capacity means that suppose the power plant has been done, designed for let's say X megawatt, but it is running now at 0.2x megawatt. So in that case, what happened? One of the, maybe the topping cycle can be switched off, only the bottoming cycle can work. So these kind of advantages or flexibilities are there when you are having a combined cycle power plant. So not only efficiency, there are other advantages also. But only thing is that that we have to have a good, good quality of fuel. As I have told, that either natural gas or coal gas that is needed. Low grade coal cannot be utilized at all. Okay, so that is the difficulty. Then if we proceed, all these things I have told here, certain things I have told here, please see the thermal efficiency of the combined cycle that has been shown. And then I am going to some problem. This problem, let us look into little bit carefully. A combined gas turbine vapor power plant has a net power output of 45 megawatt. Air enters the compressor of the gas turbine at 100 kilopascal 300 K and is compressed to 12,000 kilopascal, sorry, 1200 kilopascal. Then the isentropic efficiency of the compressor is 84%. The condition at the inlet of the turbine is 1200 kPa and 1400 K. The air expands in the turbine, which has an isentropic efficiency of 88% to a pressure of 100 kPa. Air then passes through the interconnecting heat exchanger, which I have called as heat recovery steam generator, and is finally discharged at 400 K. Steam enters the turbine of the vapor power cycle at 8 megapascal, 400 degrees Celsius, and expand to the condenser pressure of 8 kilopascal. Water enters the pump as saturated liquid at 8 kilopascal. The turbine and the pump of the vapor cycle have isentropic efficiency of 90 and 80% respectively. Determine the mass flow rate of air and steam, each in kg per second, and net power developed by the turbine and vapor power cycle in megawatt. Let T0 is equal to 300 K and P0 is equal to 100 kilopascal. Okay, so it would be also good to have the efficiency of these two cycles separately, and what is the overall efficiency of the cycle. So all these calculation, let us, I mean, all of you, I expect that all of you today, let us go through the problem quickly, but all of you should do these calculations and get an idea of the cycle. These are some common problem. If you do one or two problem like this, I will supply you some problem along with answers. So then there will not be any difficulty in solving the combined cycle problems. Let us see. So this is the schematic view of the cycle. And I think everybody can see what is there. Please have a look. If anybody has got a question, please ask. Otherwise, let us go to the next slide. Anybody has got any question?
No, sir, no.
No. Then we have made two table all the important points of the gas turbine and steam turbine. We have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let us see. Sorry. Let us see what is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 is the air inlet. 2 is the outlet from the compressor. 3 is the outlet from combustion chamber or combustor. 4 is the outlet from turbine, and 5 is the outlet from HRSG. And everywhere temperature and pressures are given. It is assumed that in the combustor there is no change in pressure, and in the heat exchanger or HRSG also there is no change in pressure. So and obviously taking as ideal gas, we have calculated this enthalpy values. We can also get the entropy values. We can also use the gas table. So gas table, you are familiar with gas table. We can also use the gas table. And then vapor cycle 6, 7, 8, 9. So 4 points we know in a in an ideal Rankine cycle there are 4 points. So 6, 7, 8, 9. So 6 is before the heater, 7 after the heater, 8 after the turbine, and 9 after the condenser. Okay. So that is all right. So here also from the steam table, we can get the enthalpy values and entropy values also we can get enthalpy and entropy values. So first what we have to, so we have got one unique component, that is your HRSG. So first what we are doing the heat balance of HRSG. So mass flow rate of gas into enthalpy difference is equal to mass flow rate of vapor into enthalpy difference. So here what we get, that mass flow rate of vapor divided by mass flow rate of gas. That means for each, and if we neglect here the mass flow rate of fuel, let us assume that is small compared to the mass flow rate of air. So we will get that mass flow rate of gas remains constant throughout the gas turbine cycle. And if we do this calculation, we are getting 0.1547. See, numbers are sometimes important. We should have some gut feeling of the numbers. So let me ask you that let us consider one gas turbine power plant. Okay, standalone gas turbine power plant. What is the air fuel ratio? Any idea? Okay, any wild guess?
Sir, the air fuel ratio will be lower than the stoichiometric ratio because Because
No. Sorry, I have to tell no. So it should not be less than stoichiometric ratio. It should be much higher compared to stoichiometric ratio of air because we need complete combustion. We do not want to waste any fuel.
yes,
Hello?
sir, but there are sometimes limitation on the turbine temperature.
So what? Turbine temperature should not be high. Turbine temperature should not be high. So I think you have got the reasons correct, but the result wrong. So first thing is that we want complete combustion to take place. Second thing is that the air which we are using, that is not only helping in the combustion, but this is also the working fluid. And working fluid mass flow rate increases means we are getting more power. Third thing, whatever you have told, that the turbine blades, always the first row of blade is subjected to the highest temperature and they are rotating component. So that temperature should not be very high. So keeping all these things, I mean, the air fuel ratio could be of the order of 500, 600, etc. Very high air fuel ratio is there in case of this one. Gas turbine power plant. I am considering common fuel. That means, let's say some sort of oil we are considering, some sort of oil is injected and burned. All right. So here what we are getting, that mass of vapor compared to air, it is very less. Is not it? 0.1547. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that is the thing. So I want you to get some idea regarding the numbers. These numbers are not arbitrary, or these are not bookish problem. These are to some extent practical problems. These kind of values are there. So mass of vapor is much less compared to the mass of air or mass of gas. Okay. Then what we get? We get that how much work is done by the gas. I encourage everybody to do this, get this number. So W that gas, that is the net work, will be turbine work minus the compressor work. And here, if you do the calculation, H2 minus H1, let us go back. H2 and H1, you see that there is lot of difference. H2 minus H1, that is at least 339. 339 will be the difference. And then it will be multiplied by the high mass flow rate of gas. So that is your compressor work. Sorry, that is your compressor work. Okay, H2 minus H1. Whereas pump work, let us H6 minus H9. What is H6? H6 is 183 and H9 is 173. So it is only 10 kilojoule per kg. And that too, it will be multiplied by the very less mass flow rate of vapor. So now probably you will appreciate that many times I have told that the in case of steam power cycle, we can neglect the pump work, but gas power cycle, we cannot neglect the compressor work. So please try to get all these numbers and have your idea formed. So W net we get from here, and W net, they have told that it is 45 megawatt. So keeping all these things, we get what is the mass flow rate of vapor and what is the mass flow rate of air. And we can see that air mass flow rate is quite high compared to the vapor mass flow rate. Simply reason is we can separately calculate the power done also, but one reason is that the vapor side, we will find that though the mass flow rate is less, but the enthalpy values are quite high compared to the specific enthalpy values compared to the gas. So that we will find. Then W gas is how much we are getting, 29.03, and W dot vapor we are getting 15.97. 15.97. So how much is this? These are all megawatt. Then I mean what I mean to say, that the gas turbine power plant is generated twice the power, almost twice the power compared to the steam turbine power plant, but the mass flow rate was quite high, is not it? 10 times, not 10 times, let's say 7-8 times more. So can you note this one? Hello? Just see what is the mass flow rate. Mass flow rate of gas is 100. Rate of vapor is 15 or 16. But power produced by gas is 29.03 and power produced by vapor is 15.97. Okay. So, I mean, gas mass flow rate is quite high, and the gas turbine power plant has to handle a very large amount of gas. So this is one thing that is also a difference between the gas cycle and the vapor cycle. Can we find out the efficiency quickly? So here we are getting how much? 45 megawatt, no? 45 megawatt. So 45 megawatt is the output network. And what is the input? Can you tell me? Can you tell me the efficiency? What is the input? The input, you see, H3 minus H2. What is H3 minus H2? Can you do some mental calculation or with some pen and paper? H3 you have got, H2 you have got. Okay. Anybody doing this calculation? Hello? Nobody answers. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
1515 minus 670. Let's say this is 670. 670 and this is 1515. 1515 minus 670 is how much?
845.
845. So 845 multiplied by the mass flow rate of air. So 100. 845 into 100. So 845 was kilojoule into 100. उसको मेगाजूल में करना है, तो क्या है मेगावाट, कितना मेगावाट होगा?
84.5.
84.5. And how much we have got power? Power we have got 45. So 45 how much?
0.553%.
0.5.
So this is what I told, no, that I do not know whether I have mentioned it or not, that combined cycle power plant we can cross 50%. Individual power plant also you can find out the efficiency, and then I think by this time you should be convinced that we really gain in terms of efficiency if it is a combined cycle power plant. Okay. So all right, I do not have any slide to show in this, but I have sent another slide deck. I will open that. That is regarding feed water heater. That is very important. Let me go back. So this is now what I like to do. I have already told you that feed water heaters will be there in large power plant, utility power plant, even moderate size power plant. Though in the last example, I have not considered any feed water heater, but feed water heater will be there even in combined cycle power plant. But if it is only a steam power plant, there will be a large utility power plant, there will be feed water heater. Supercritical steam power plant also, there will be feed water heater. So, and feed water heaters are very important component of a steam power plant. So I like to, spend the rest of the time discussing on feed water heater. So एक बार देख लो क्या है feed water heaters or feed heaters or regenerative feed heaters. Different names are basically heat exchanger in which feed water originating from the condenser. So water we get basically from the condenser after condensation of steam, or previous feed water heater is heated with the help of steam extracted from different points of the turbine. So this we know, this is feed water. Extracted steam condenses completely and get added or mixed either directly or indirectly to the feed water stream. So the feed water heaters can be considered as steam condensers. So basically feed water heaters are also, they are heat exchangers, but they can be also considered as steam condensers. So when there is a regenerative feed heating, condenser, some steam is getting condensed, and in feed water heater also some amount of steam is getting condensed. All right, it is getting condensed in two different places. Like condensers, they can be of two different types. Already I have told, direct contact condenser, that is called open feed water heater, and indirect contact condenser, that is called closed feed water heater. So condensers are, there could be different category of condensers. One thing could be that directly we inject water inside steam. So then we inject water means we inject water as small droplet or spray. So on the water surface steam condenses. So this is direct contact condensation. And indirect contact condensation is through the tube we will send water and tube surface will get cold. So steam will be flowing outside the tube and steam will condense on the tube surface. So the first type of condensers are called direct condensers. Second type of condensers are called indirect condensers, or more commonly they are called surface condensers. Steam condenses over the surface of the tube, so they are called surface condensers. Now, I like to ask you, which one do you prefer? As mechanical engineer, which one do you prefer?
Open feed water heater. Open feed water heater.
Direct contact condenser.
Yeah.
Heat transfer point of view, direct contact condensers are much better. One can imagine that, maybe they are simple also in design, but it is not so exactly, because making water, or rather heat exchangers, for good amount of heat exchange between the two streams, many things are needed. One thing we need is that very large kind of surface area between these two fluids, interface area between these two fluids. Second thing is that good amount of residence time inside the heat exchanger. Residence time means two fluids should be, in proximity for a large amount of time within a heat exchanger for a given heat exchanger volume, or for a given heat exchanger length, and also velocity. If the velocity is very high, then one liquid will come out of the heat exchanger very quickly. Now, this is little bit contradicting. If the velocity is very high, then generally heat transfer increases. But velocity is very high, then the time decreases which is available for heat transfer. So heat exchanger designs from the very beginning, heat exchanger design has become very, it is a very challenging task, though people have done very innovative kind of, very efficient kind of heat exchangers, but it is a very challenging job. The not in a nutshell, what I like to say that on the prima facie, though open or direct contact heat exchangers has got many advantages, only in small power plants sometimes direct contact heat condensers are used. Otherwise, generally surface condensers are used, because then you have got better control over the vapor phase and the liquid phase. So in condenser, when we will read, I do not know whether we will have time or not. So this is one thing we have to keep it in mind, that surface condensers are mainly used in steam power plant. Well, let us draw some conclusion from that. So similarly, as we proceed, we will see that open feed water heaters are used, but less in number. Mostly closed feed water heaters are preferred. All right. Then in a large steam power based plant, both there is a train of feed water heaters that. No, this sentence is slightly wrongly written. So in a large steam power plant, what I wanted to tell, that there is a train of feed water heater which raises its temperature from the condenser to up to the economizer, and there will be large number of feed water heater, and both there will be open and closed type of feed water heater. Open feed water heater are of two types: simply what can be used as a feed water heater, or something which we call as deaerator. We will look into that. Deaerators are very important system for separating and venting off the non-condensable gases from the water stream circuit. As the water stream circulate through different components of the plant, so small amount of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other non-condensable gases generate, and they will accumulate in the system. Let's say carbon dioxide is generated. So carbon dioxide is generated and it is in the system. So it will get dissolved in the water and it will produce some sort of carbonic acid. I mean, that is not good for the metallic part. So time to time, or rather there should be some arrangement to purge off these non-condensable gases, and that is done by deaerator. They are to be removed from the system, and that is done by deaerator. Here we find one deaerator. So deaerator is basically a separator of dissolved gases from water. Now separator could be in different way. We could have some sort of a chemical agent, and all these dissolved gases could have chemically reacted and separated. That could be, but we use some sort of mechanical separator. Deaerator is a mechanical separator. It works on Henry's principle. What is Henry's principle? Give a search in the net, you will find what is Henry's principle. It is something in thermodynamics, particularly in chemical thermodynamics. So Henry's principle says that solubility of a gas in a liquid depends on the partial pressure of the gas at the top of the liquid. So if you reduce the partial pressure of the gas, it is very, easy to understand that if we reduce the partial pressure of the gas at the top of at the free surface of the liquid, then less amount of gas will be soluble. And we know that with pressurization, we can dissolve more gas in aerated drinks, etc. So it is something like that. Another thing is that if you heat a liquid, then whatever gas is soluble from in the liquid, that comes out. So these two principles are used in a deaerator. Am I clear? Can you understand this one?
Yes,
that,
sir, yes, sir.
We will have the temperature of the liquid high, and at the top of the liquid should have free surface. So it should not be within a tube. Liquid should not pass through a tube. Liquid should have some sort of a free surface, and on the free surface we should have less partial pressure of the permanent gas or non-condensable gas. So deaerators are special type of open feed water heaters placed in the middle of the feed water train. I will explain it. and at high elevation. The elevation of this feed water heater should be higher compared to other components. I mean, it is that's way it is very visible. All steam power plants should contain a deaerator. At least one deaerator should be there. In a deaerator, feed water is injected from the top in the form of spray or thin film. Off ho gaya, sorry, spray or thin film, so that we get more amount of area, interfacial area between air and water. Sorry, between the gas, steam and water. And it contacts the upward moving steam intimately. And there are barriers, etc., in the deaerator so that the steam does not go up directly, water does not fall down directly. There are zigzag paths so that the time of interaction that also increases. Steam condenses and increases the temperature of the feed water, helping separation of non-condensable gas, and non-condensable gases are vented at the top. So here, so those things are shown. Here, dekho, that steam is bubbling through the water so that this is getting heated up and non-condensable will get separated. And water is sprayed from the top and steam is coming from the bottom. There are tray, as I have told, that we do not want them to just fall without any obstacle. If there is obstacle, they will spend more time to cross the obstacle and more time they will interact with each other. And ultimately, the air vent is there. From there, non-condensables are taken out. Okay, and also it is increasing the temperature of the feed water. So it is serving both the purpose. So you see, this diagram we are going to spend some time. It shows the a moderately big steam turbine plant. So what we are having, a high pressure turbine we are having, an intermediate pressure turbine we are having, and we are having a low pressure turbine. Quite a few things we can learn from here. And then we can have a train of feed water heater. This is the condenser, this is one of the pump. So one feed water heater, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. And this is the deaerator. So as I have told that it will be in between the feed water train and it will be at higher elevation. So both these things are there. A few things let us see. In this steam turbine scheme, nowhere reheating is there. So more or less same amount of steam is passing through all the turbines. Exactly not, because we have extracted certain amount of steam time to time. Exactly not, but more or less same amount of steam is passing through the turbine. But as the steam goes from the highest pressure to the lowest pressure, so we can see that the volume is increasing, and also the steam turbine is becoming bigger and bigger. So HP, IP, LP will be very big. So what is done in most of the power plant, here we are coming and there are two LP turbines. You see, this is inlet of the turbine and this is outlet of the turbine. A mirror image of this will be there. That means this steam is coming, getting divided into two parts. One part is going to this LP and another part is going to that LP. So otherwise, this steam turbine could have been this big. So that we have avoided by this design. This is a very common feature in the LP stage of the steam turbine. What could be the other advantage of having this kind of a design? The other advantage is that the turbine shaft, let us go a little bit into applied mechanics. The turbine shaft, it is rotating and through the blade passages steam is expanding. So there is a change in pressure, high pressure to low pressure. And obviously, there will be thrust. There will be radial thrust and there will be axial thrust. So, the axial thrust, so for that, there will be also some sort of bearings, etc. Radial and axial thrust one has to take care of. Now, if we put the two turbine like this, then and they are identical, same amount of mass flow is going. So the axial thrust will be in the opposite direction, and to some extent, the axial thrust will get balanced. To a very great extent, the axial thrust will get balanced. So that is also one reason that we put two turbines like this. So turbine size will be small because mass flow rate is getting divided, and then axial thrust will be small. So this is as far as আমি একটা মিটিং এ আছি, পরে কথা বলবো। So this is as far as turbine is concerned. Now regarding feed water heater train, very different kind of arrangements are possible. Here one kind of arrangement you can see, and you need not think that this is the only arrangement possible. And if you can spend some time, you will find very unique kind of arrangements have been made here. First thing what I draw your attention is that the entire amount of the fluid, the way the train has been designed, the entire amount of the feed water. I am in a meeting, I'll talk to you afterwards. The entire amount of feed water is passing through the deaerator. Please have a look and then confirm what I am telling is correct or not. Deaerator, I have put it in the middle of the feed water heater train, FWH train, and entire amount of water is passing through this deaerator. But any other feed water heater, if you consider, only a part of the feed water is going through it. Correct or wrong?
Sir, there is one line from IP intermediate turbine, like 1-3, that is moving to 2-2 HE6. That is not going through the deaerator.
No, that is not going through the deaerator. That is true, but 2-2, whatever steam will be forming, that will come to what? That will come to HE5. है ना? देखो, I mean, there is some sort of a arrow and it is coming to HE5. From HE5 again, this will go back to the deaerator.
Yes, I got it.
Okay, so entire water is coming through. So this is a good design. Why it is a good design? Because whatever feed water is there, some amount of dissolved gas could be there. So deaerator, if we make it big enough and a good design, and if we make the entire water to pass through it, then I can take care of the dissolved gases from all the part of the feed water heater. Now, in some design, of course, you will find only a large portion of feed water is going through the deaerator, not the entire portion. That is also possible. And only thing is that as we are having a closed circuit, even with that also we can take care of the dissolved gases. But please, sometimes you give some time to understand. Like you see, 1 or 2 points, let me just tell you. Just a minute. Where is the cursor? Yeah. So, like from here, some amount of this thing has been taken. Some amount of steam has been taken, and that is coming to this one. That is coming to this one. So, and this is called drip. We will come to this. So drip is for this part of the train, the drip is going back like this. And for this part of train, drip is coming in the forward direction. Drip is coming in the forward direction. Here it has gone back. So all different kind of combinations are there. All different, and these have evolved with years of experience. I should not say research, maybe some calculation and experience. So this part you see, just one thing which we are coming very shortly, that in some of the feed water heater we have used a pump. These are small pump, okay, and this is going in the forward direction. And here we have not used any pump. This is going in the backward direction. Forward direction means it is going to the high pressure region, and backward direction means it is going to the low pressure region. Condenser is the lowest pressure, and this turbine, that is the highest pressure, or boiler is the highest pressure. So you can understand that when it is going to the highest higher pressure towards the boiler, we are using some small pump, and when it is going in the backward direction towards the condenser, we are not using any pump. Okay. So this is one thing. This is open feed water heater. I will not elaborate it. Already I have elaborated, but here there is a problem. Please solve this problem. For the example shown in the left, all values are given, enthalpy values even are given. You have not to refer to this steam table. So draw the PV and TS diagram and find out the following: thermal efficiency of the cycle, percentage of working fluid going to the open feed water heater, heat transfer in the boiler and economizer, and then change in efficiency of work output if there is no feed water. So this cycle is some sort of a reheating cycle, plus there is feed water heating. So suppose I have reheating only and feed water heating I leave. Then what will be the change in the work output and efficiency? So please work out this one. This will be a good exercise, and counterpart of this problem I will give now. This is the closed feed water heater. Closed feed water heater, as I have told, closed feed water heater, all are closed feed water heater. So closed feed water heater could be here, which is very low pressure feed water heater, and a closed feed water heater could be here, which is a high pressure feed water heater. So from here, when I am taking a steam, so obviously this steam could be superheated. Because steam has entered here, and just after that I am taking this steam. This steam could be superheated. And when I am having a feed water heater over here, so this steam will be most probably almost at the exit end of the turbine. Most probably it will be wet steam. So feed water heater are not all the feed water heaters are same. Means design, internal design of the feed water heater of all the feed water heaters are not the same. When we are having a high pressure feed water heater, then the steam is superheated. Where is that cursor? Steam is superheated. So superheated steam is entering. So first it is getting desuperheated, then it condenses, then it becomes slightly subcooled. The condensate becomes subcooled. So this is called desuperheating. This is condensation. This is sometimes it is called drain cooling. This word is very much used. Why it is called drain cooling? Because outside the tube, when condensation takes place, that these condensed liquid drains drop by drop. So people used to call earlier days that this is drain fluid. So this drain cooling. And basically we are having cell and tube kind of heat exchanger. So it will have a section for desuperheating. It will have a large section for condensing, and then it will have a section for drain cooling. So this is what we will have. And I have shown these two type of drain. One drain, closed feed water heater with drain pump in the forward direction. If this drain fluid which we get due to condensation, so that we want to send towards the boiler side, then I have to increase the pressure. I have to use some sort of a pump. And if we want to send it towards the condenser side, then what I have to do, this pressure is already high. So I have to have some sort of a steam trap so that no steam goes this way, and there should be some sort of a throttling valve so that there is pressure reduction. So either this is used or this is used. So two types of circuit commonly used for closed feed water heater. For drain backward case, sometimes hot well is incorporated. Means sometimes what happens, all this water we collect in a hot well, where from there again we pump it. Okay. I mean, in the net, if you search, you will get this thing. Due to time shortage, I cannot discuss all these things. So considering these two feed water heater, kindly draw the TS diagram for these two cases. How the TS diagram will look for these two cases. This is a good exercise. Please do it. Okay. Then I have taken one problem. The same problem, counterpart of the same problem. In earlier problem, there was a open feed water heater. Here we have got a closed feed water heater. Same things you solve and you see whether there is any difference in the result or not. Okay. So, I mean, I have given today some sort of homework. Of course, earlier the problems, example problems, whichever I have given, you should do it. But these things are very important. You please do these things. This will give you a good training. And at the same time, to make the life simpler, all the enthalpy values, etc., have been given. Only you have to draw certain things, do the mass balance, do the energy balance. All right. So if you have any question, please ask. Could you understand feed water heater? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we are, I mean, the first topic which I wanted to teach, that a good overview regarding the theoretical cycle of practical power plant. The theoretical cycle of practical power plant. So almost we are coming towards the end of it. Some problem definitely I will try to give you in between before next class, along with answer as far as possible. So try to solve those problems. Steam table, you should know how to, I mean, you know already, you should know how to look into steam table. And then slowly we have to think of some sort of class test kind of a thing also. Let me see how I can, I am also new to this system. So let me see how best we can do it without giving you much tension. But at the same time, do you have any question, any suggestion? Actually, let me tell another important thing. Somebody has made phone call and asked the book on power plant by Professor P.K. Nag. That is a very good book. Professor P.K. Nag was like my teacher. He was not my teacher, but like my teacher. And his book you can refer. So I think that will do good. But do you have any question, any suggestion, anything? Please, 2 minutes let us spend on that, and then, or I mean, whatever. I do not have a paucity of time, so please tell me if you want.
Sir, in this online sim, like for other subjects, it seems like assignments, class tests, like it is too much in number and such things are there. So
please tell me. Please tell me.